for folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact.
We have a problem where too many people are afraid to say what they believe in, let alone actually do something about it. If you're afraid to stand outside the TSA line and piss off 97% of people who are waiting to just take the farm building up their ass in 5 seconds, then you're probably not ever going to make the change.
Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement.
I am a friend of the Free State Project.
And would you encourage people to check it out?
Absolutely. Check it out. Find out. If you like it, join and continue the effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians, anarchists, minarchists, movers, natives, and those on your way, thanks for tuning into Free State Live, where you can learn all about how to live free and thrive in the free state of New Hampshire. But first and foremost, time to welcome back your host. As always, I'm Justin O'Donnell, former libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate and host of the Subversive podcast. And joining me tonight, we got the Manchester memesman and local committee talent, Bill Barker. How are you, Bill?
Hey, how's it going? Yep, muted. Yep, good.
Ready to ride out
Good
the
to
storm in Manchester. And us back again, we have family man and keyboard activist Kevin from the internet. Kevin, how are you?
Very good, very good. Good to be here.
For those of you who don't realize, I think we've actually managed to get I don't know what your combined height total is, but you two are the 2 tallest free staters at this point. I think we're running.
Yes, and we're gonna kick you off for Sean Faber soon.
Yeah, we'll see. And our special guest tonight, joining us tonight, the one and the only iconic libertarian refugee making the years-long trip, not just across the country, but across the world, from the CCP to the FSP, the one, the only, the lovely Lily Tang Williams. How are you, Lily?
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Hey, hello.
Hello.
Sure. Here you go.
Hey, so thank you so much for coming on, Lily. Thank you so much for being here in New Hampshire with us, fighting for freedom. You've put forth more. Your story is fascinating because a lot of us have come from elsewhere in the country to move here to fight for freedom, fight for liberty with the Free State Project. Bill and Kevin haven't gone far to go. They were born here, really lucky. But I came back. Yeah, you came not from Massachusetts, not from New York, not even from California, but from China. The long way through Colorado. But you got here, what's the story of Lily? And I know you're running for Congress now. You're one of the great liberty candidates running for Congress this year. But why is your story so compelling? And what possessed you to decide that life in China wasn't good enough? What was it about life in China that made you seek freedom?
Well, when Mao died, first time in my life, I started to ask questions in my own head, how come my God died? It's I thought he was God, right? You grew up under his Cultural Revolution, you hold his little red books, you say, long live Chairman Mao, for all those school years, and all of a sudden when I was 12 he died, and I had some brain left to say, hey, I shouldn't ask questions who lied to me. I was asking inside of my own head to say, who lied to me? How come he died? He's a human. Said I think that was first time in my life, 12 years old, ask that question. Then of course, I was depressed. I was lost soul, and I had no smiles for years. And the school reopened, college reopened, because Mao shut down all schools during his Cultural Revolution. He sent the young people to these, streets, mobs, great guards, doing class struggles and going after black class families. After he finished using them, he sent them to countryside. My 3 uncles, one aunt stayed home. 3 uncles all went to countryside called re-educational camps, and after Mao used them up. So all the woke soldiers today, social justice warriors today, they should Google Red Guards, find out how they end up to be in China after Mao used them for his absolutely godlike status. And so by the time I decided the only place maybe I could find out the truth, what happened, is by going to best college university in China. So I decided to study very hard because here's how you go to China colleges. Of course, it's all government schools. And I was born into a workers' family. So no power, no money, no connections. But they had a nationalized college entrance exam once a year. They still do that today. If you pass this exam, then you can go to the university. So I studied very hard, studied to test, studied to say, thank goodness I have very good memory. And my grandfather was actually a smart man, but he died before Mao took over China. So all my family become very poor. Maybe it was good for me because otherwise I would end up to be classified as a black class family. And I will never be able to join Mao's like young pioneers, Red Guards, and even later, be allowed to go to government colleges. So I passed the exam, and at the age of 17, I remember that was my birthday, I got a notice to say go to law school. You know why I wanted to go to law school? Because I was told later Mao was just a human being. His Cultural Revolution, 10 years, that 20 million people died was a mistake. So he was human. He died. He made a mistake on like 20 million people's lives. So I said, okay, I'll go to college and study law. Maybe I can change China into a rule of law society.
Well, I mean, this is a fascinating experience. So you went to college in China. You grew up your whole education in China, and you still came out saying, nope, this is wrong. I got to get out and go to America. Like, we're having the big fight now here in the United States over indoctrination and education, and people fighting over wokeism, and people using public schools and university systems as a pulpit for political indoctrination. What was it like going to school and growing up and being educated in a college system like in China, where that was the standard? Like, where you had a party line that you had to be taught?
Well, of course, second time I got totally lost again. It was in college. I thought if I could study law, I get the best education from the top 5 universities, and I can transform China from a society rule of man to rule of law. But within first 2 weeks in college, the professors told our whole class, law is a tool used by the CCP to govern the masses. Never mention about justice, never mention about equal protection. So why I'm wasting time then studying law? Of course, I become totally, depressed and I don't know what the truth is anymore. So I start to become totally rebellious teenager. I went to dancing parties every night. Think about that. Escape classes, and even trying to smoke a cigarette. I hate it. I did not like it. Basically, I rebelled because I lost complete hope for what I'm studying and change my motherland for better and for common people, for justice. So, but something happened when I was a third year going to dancing party. Dancing party was banned first year, and later they start to open up. And we had the foreign students come to dancing parties. That's where I met an American exchange student. And he invited me to go visit him in his dormitory. To visit a foreign student in his dormitory, you got to go register at the gate to say, I'm going to visit him. What are you going to talk about? Time in, time out, your major, your address. There was like a guard at every building for foreign students. Think about that.
No, I can imagine. So when I was in college, we had an exchange program between the school I went to, Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and Shanghai Maritime University. And we did an exchange back and forth. It was really fun to go to Shanghai. It was one of the most fun cities I ever visited for a short time. I would never want to live there, but to visit was really fun. It was a great big city. But I remember I made really good friends with an exchange student that had come to do a semester in Massachusetts with us, and his name was Rocky. He went by Rocky. I don't know his Chinese name, but he had everyone call him Rocky when he was here. And we used to give him crap all the time, joking about communism, like blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I'm a Communist Party member. And we're like, do you actually believe in it? He's like, no, it's an awful system. But if I don't join the party, I don't follow along, and I don't help the party, then my life is miserable. So I might as well join the party and work my way up and make my own life better.
Right. There's only one party that you should join in China. That's the Communist Party, because it comes with benefits, perks, promotions, and the comfortable lifestyle. I mean, you cannot get promoted into any important government position, even today as a college student, if you're not party member. That's what happened to me. When I went through all that rebellion time in college, and when I wanted to stay in Shanghai to become faculty member, because Shanghai is an international city, commerce, foreign exchange, and richer, more wealthy, more open than my Sichuan.
Great bars and nightclubs.
Yeah. So I wanted to stay in Shanghai. Guess what they made me to do? If you want to become law school faculty member, you have to be joining the party. Otherwise, how do we trust your loyalty? Which side are you on? You have to teach college students with the party's law, with the party's ideology. That's what I had to do. I had to bite my tongue to do it. You had no choice in order to stay in Shanghai to teach. So you are right. That can tell you, I might not believe anymore, but you know what? You have to enjoy it. I did not believe anymore. I had to enjoy to become a member in order to stay in Shanghai to teach. Otherwise, traditionally, they will send where you come from. If I come from Sichuan, which is next to Tibet, a big province, and Chengdu is capital city of Sichuan, then I'm supposed to go back to my hometown to serve. It was a guaranteed government job if you went to college in the 80s that time. But I did not want to go home. I wanted to stay in Shanghai. So I had to join. And then, of course, I only stayed there for 3 years. Finally, I planned for my escape.
What was your deciding factor there?
Well, because once I become faculty member, and my hope, dreams, all were destroyed. To change China, or they're going to change me. And my party, remember, every department in university has a Communist Party committee. Your academic dean is just academic dean. So your bigger boss is your Communist Party committee chair. And that chair was so hardliner. It was awful. I mean, I feel like not just having no academic freedom, but also no personal freedom. He was telling me I shouldn't even go to dancing party anymore. I shouldn't go to my boyfriend's home because his mom then invite me have sleepover, have dinner, constantly tell you what to do in your personal time. I was so depressed. Third time I was depressed. What am I going to do if I stay in China? I was young. I was 21 when I graduated from college. I wanted to have more freedom. I did not have ideology. I just say, God, can they just leave me alone? I just hated my boss. So I said that the only way I can leave to come to America is by studying English quietly, pass TOEFL exam, get an American sponsor. And the hardest part, I have to get my boss of Communist Party committee to sign me off to quit my job and get the permission to apply for my passport. That's when I realized I better change my strategy, not to fight him anymore. I better just start to join the weekly political meeting to say, Kumbaya, yes, I support the party. Okay. You have to be publicly support the party. Violence. Like silence is violence, remember?
Right.
So I have to do all that stuff.
It's literally a dystopian novel.
So
just like 1984, I read that book.
Lily, you're describing all this, and I can't help but think it's like, you're talking about going to school and then teaching. It's like having, we have our new Ministry of Truth, the what is the Department of
Disinformation?
So we have that now. It's like having that run the schools and run like the social media companies. And so you have to deal with that in every facet of your daily life. When you came to the US, did you find that it was like, like it was everything you wanted it to be? It was as free as it was like, as you'd imagined?
Well, when I first came, I went to Austin, Texas, for graduate school. And I got super lucky. I was very blessed. I come here first night. I met my husband. Now we've been married for a long time. 3 children later, he's still my husband. And Texas people were very friendly. And I was in a very white neighborhood and quite a country, to what I thought. Oh, I'm the only people of color on that street in the neighborhood. But the people were so friendly. They say howdy. And they look at me. Of course, I look so different. This little girl look at me and touch my hair, non-black hair. And they offered they knew I was very poor as a graduate student. So they offered me, do you want kitchenware? Do you want clothes? Do you want a blanket? They offered me everything for free when I was in graduate school. And so Texas people were so warm and so wonderful to me. And I still thought, okay, I'm going to learn English. I only got $100. I got to get a job. And I got to pay my debt back. And I need to, trying to graduate with my degree so I can get a good job. I was not political at all. I just thought I was safe. I came to a free country.
Totally, yeah.
Good, And of course, I had to learn English. I had to carry a little book, and I had to learn how to pay bills. I got a research assistantship job, and I worked 20 hours a week. I had to learn English, and I remember for 2 years, I could not really join the class debate until my English got better,
Right.
And so I wasn't political at all. I just, focused on my life, got a degree, got married, then raised children. And I went to Hong Kong with my husband, worked there for 2 years. It's so sad to see what happened to the Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is very dear to my heart. From 96 to 98, I was working in Hong Kong. My husband was expat, and we enjoyed the most free market in the world and most hardworking Hong Kongese. And then we saw they turn over. The U.S., the British flag, got replaced by China's flag. But nothing was changed. We thought, okay, 50 years, no change. Basic law, guaranteed. One country, 2 systems. And that was a lie, And,
we saw that recently. It was just at the beginning of the lockdowns and the pandemic. China took advantage of COVID and the lockdowns to kind of just end any sovereignty Hong Kong had left, and just
the biggest protest in Hong Kong. Remember, it's like
right.
It's like 1/3 of population. Like, think about it, Hong Kong has over 7 million people. Then on and off for about a year, they had 2.5 million people going to street. And the COVID, of course, shut that down. That's why when government created crisis and tell you to stay home and it's for your good health and public safety, then they crush down anybody who dare to go out to protest. There's just something wrong with that, I mean, nobody could even go out anymore in Hong Kong today, especially for June 4th, like Tiananmen Square massacre anniversary coming up. And Hong Kong people cannot go out to light a candle for the victims. They will get arrested because they imposed China's national security law to Hong Kong. So if you, even as American citizen, to go to Hong Kong, say and do anything anti-CCP, me too, we'll be locked up. We can disappear.
So at what point did you get political?
Well, after I come to this country, I took 20 years awakening and process. If you are indoctrinated all your life, some people will never wake up. I only woke up because I came to America, left China, started to learn the truth, learn English, and I had very libertarian husband who told me to read other books like Milton Friedman, Free to Choose, Wealth of Nations, and
good recommendations.
Yeah, watch the movie Agnes Struck, and I remember 2008. 20 years later, after I come to this country, I feel that's the year I truly become an independent thinker. So I would tell people, yes, I was educated once in China. That took me 20 years to get rid of it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask Lily, was how did you go from grad student that had just come from China to the United States to moving to, New Hampshire and associating with the Free State Project? Like, that's, certainly, like Justin said, it as a mover story, you have that's maybe one of the longest journeys anybody's ever made to move. But on top of it is you probably had an interesting path to navigate your way here. Whereas me and Bill, like, man, I was born 20 minutes away from where I live right now. So, the contrast is so stark.
Long story short, when I woke up 2008, I got a little bit scared. It's like I thought I come to a free country, but lots of stuff going on in the United States. I just could not like it. I could not believe it's happening. So I become a little bit political. I said, I'm going to find out what's going on. So I start to go to meetings, get politically involved. And that's the year I also left Republican Party because they left me. I feel like they really left me. I was Republican when I became a citizen. And so when I get politically active, I was involved with lots of liberty activists. Then I start to run for office. They recruit me to run because, I had nothing to lose. They said, Lily, we don't care if your English is good or not. Just be a line holder. But I cannot just run for something, be a line holder. When I promise to do something, I put my time, energy, and focus to it to make that successful. Yep. So I ran 2 very good campaigns and just want to tell my stories and to educate people. We don't want any socialism in this country. Because the whole time I woke up, it's like people were constantly demonize.
And that was when you were in Colorado, right?
Yes, I was in Colorado. So 2016, somebody approached me at the Freedom Fest. I went to Freedom Fest twice. Okay. And they told me, somebody, who's from New Hampshire said, Lily, have you heard about Free State Project? I said, no. And then they start to give me the website and tell me about it. So 2016, after I ran for U.S. Senate, and of course, I was bummed. I worked whole year very hard, full time. I got 3.6%. And I got lots of good practice to tell my stories and to get interviews. So I said, I need to come here, check out, because I saw the Colorado, maybe it's not a place for me. Colorado, I saw that coming. It's turning really blue, from purple to blue. And so I come to New Hampshire, 2016. And I just fell in love in 4 days. And, it's beautiful. It's got lots of land. It's got lots of our likely-minded people here. And I went to state capitol, and my realtor just carried his gun, walk in. There was no guard. And I said, you can just walk in. There's no security guard, do metal detector at the state capitol. He said, no, this is live free or die state. And we have constitutional carry. And when I went out to look for houses with him, he was carrying gun the whole time. Open carry. I said, I feel so safe here.
Shortly after that, I think, because I remember it was April 2017 when me and you first met in Denver. And because I had gone out for an LNC meeting and it was an LP fundraiser, and it was the first time we met in person in Denver. And I remember talking to your husband, and he was joking. He's like, "Yeah, she went to visit New Hampshire and came home and told me we're moving."
Well, longer than that. I had to take 6 months to convince my husband, and also trying to get my daughter to understand we're not going to desert her. She just started college. And, and it's like, we're not going to desert you. Yeah, mom, dad's going to prepare for it. So it took us actually 2 or 3 years to prepare. Sell house, buy house, sell house, buy house. My husband had to wait until to take early retirement from his job so he could access to his 401k. So basically, he said goodbye to his, nice paying defense contractor job. And he said, you better buy me 10 acres land early retirement in New Hampshire. That's why we live in where? We bought a house with 20 acres.
That's a great place. We do have a question from Chad. I think it's a great question to ask. Lily, when it comes to diversity, most of us believe in taking the best from every culture versus diversity for its own sake. What are some aspects of Chinese culture that are still important to you that you think are worth embracing?
Well, I always tell people there was a China before communism. If you watch this beautiful musical dancing show called Shen Yun, which is banned in China, organized, performed by Falun Gong practitioners in this country. China has rich history, and rich history and family values and Confucianism and all that good sense and respectful and civil culture, all destroyed by communists and by Mao after 1949. And I still love Chinese food. I still love Chinese songs and Chinese music and the Chinese people. I just hated the party, hated the government. And lots of Chinese just cannot differentiate that. They think if I say something anti-CCP, oh, I'm no longer like a patriot. I'm no longer loving China. They look how brainwashed they are.
Well, what's the best Chinese food in New Hampshire? If you still love Chinese food, what's the best Chinese food in New Hampshire from someone who knows Chinese food?
My backyard.
All right.
I stir fry in my own backyard with a big wok outside on propane tank.
All right, now I'm excited for a campaign event.
Yeah, that sounds really
right. But there are some good ones in Concord. I just have to lower my standard. When I don't want to cook, I go eat some Chinese food. But the best one, I like to go to Boston, Chinatown. But the saying so when Boston just were totally lefty, locked down, vaccine passport, all that crap, I stopped going there. I don't even go to the grocery store there anymore. I just go to Little Saigon in Manchester for my Oriental products.
That's a good market.
Yeah.
No, but Boston, it really is unfortunate because Boston, people used to joke that New Hampshire was just a suburb of Boston, and that really was still kind of a cultural and recreational center for people who lived in New Hampshire. It was only 45 minutes away. You could go to sports games, theater shows. Chinatown is amazing. Some of the best sushi in the world I've had in Boston, the Seaports District. Like, it's great, and it's become such a different and horrifying world for it to have been locked down and become such a fascist and socialist city inside the United States, especially because it blows my mind. And I went on this rant with a friend from Boston the other day. How can Boston, a city where everyone on their daily walk to work and on their lunch breaks in between works, going to get their coffee, walks by the site of the Boston Massacre, walks by Faneuil Hall, walks by the graves of John Adams and Ben Franklin, how can that city not be the most libertarian city in the world? When they have that daily, constant reminder of every libertarian value this country was founded on. And it breaks my heart to see what's become of them. As I'm sure broke your heart to realize what was going on in China.
Well, Michelle Wu, the mayor of Boston, actually is a Chinese American, her family from Taiwan. She was born in this country. That tells you what is wrong with Americans' educational system. You can have the same Chinese American like me appreciate, value freedom, because I know what's like not to have it. And here, if you are Chinese American born in this great country, guess what? You are lefty Marxist. What's wrong with this country? What are they learning in schools, in colleges, and being indoctrinated? Do they want to go to China? Let's swap, right? And maybe they go to China, live there for 6 months a year. I will help to pay for the air ticket. And they come here, tell people equity. We need equity. I said equity is a communist term. Why are we so proudly promoting equity in this country? How could you have equal outcome without government use force to redistribute wealth? or redistribute jobs, redistribute everything instead of let the free market capture them to work. Let the individual take responsibilities to actually, achieve their happiness, their prosperity.
So, Lily, I've got a question for you. You're living here now, and it seems like as time goes further and further, we've got like the surveillance state in the U.S. is growing. It looks like they're setting the blueprint for social credit scores. Maybe not. There's the Ministry of Truth. There's been lockdowns. There's been ideas of like UBI floated, like universal basic income. How do we stay ahead of this? What is the solution? And I know the Free State Project is obviously one idea, just concentrating people with similar values, concentrating. But like, what are the crucial things we stay ahead of if we're gonna like not fall into the same traps that it looks like China has fallen into, to be manipulated and controlled?
Well, that's why I'm running.
Aside from just voting for you.
Well, that's why I'm running for Congress, because I honestly cannot sleep well last 2 years. I have been educator for 5 years to teach horrors of communism and the horrors of socialism. I guess I have failed. I need to go national. I need to take my message to the whole country, regardless of the attacks I'm going through, the threats I'm going through, because people here don't understand what they're doing here, cancel people's rights, going through lockdowns. Government decide if you're essential or not, and government want to create a massive dependency on them, but take your rights away as the condition for you to get a permission to do other things. It's just totally un-American and totally communist. Why are they learning from the Communist Party's playbook? Use similar tactics and use similar words and trackings and censorship to deal with Americans. How could even Americans tolerate that? I was having PTSD, okay? I was having nightmares. I couldn't sleep well at night. And I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? Because I know what China government did during COVID. I never thought our free country will go after them to shut down entire country, an entire state for months and months. I just couldn't believe that.
Well, Captain Phoenix is asking if in your reading you have gotten to 1984 yet. And my question is, if you have gotten to 1984, I'm assuming you have. Everyone's gotten to it, or at least seen the movie. If they haven't, that's the lesson point for you. I'll go read 1984. Yeah, what parallels are you drawing there? Like, how are you as terrified as I am to see the United States government using Orwellian dystopian fiction as a playbook? Like, okay, let's do that next.
Well, I am so terrified to see they want to ESG, they want to vaccine passport, they want to track people, they also want to cancel your rights and force you to take something you don't own your body, and force all kinds of mandates on you. And the Ministry of Truth, the Ministry of Truth, like China's national security minister, they are the one who will lock you up, because you are a threat to national security, including foreigners going to visit China and Hong Kong. How it's like, what kind of a world, have we become? So I feel like I tell my story, speak the truth. It's more than just for New Hampshire, it's for the whole country, it's for the whole world to hear me, that the communist, strategies and shutting people down do not respect their human rights, human dignity and privacy, and without respect their self-ownership of themselves, their families, and their kids. It's totally, that's what I'm saying. There are 12 features of Cultural Revolution I summarized from Mao, and you can check every box. Those 12 features is similar to today's America. And you can see that on my YouTube, Lily Tang Williams. I talk about my 2 cultural revolutions, 12 features, very terrifying.
Well, so I'm not too terribly familiar with the history of the Cultural Revolution other than what's taught in textbooks in the US. And even here, they don't teach it all that much. It's just that it happened. It wasn't that great. Communism bad, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I'm not even sure they still teach communism
No.
the bad part of it.
No, they don't even say that anymore, dude.
But was there really much of a resistance? Like, I know the nationalists left to Taiwan at some point before or after World War II. I'm terrible with my history here at this point. But what was the actual resistance to the Cultural Revolution? And I think this leads into a question Dennis Pratt has asked in the chat, which is a great question. Do you believe that the Chinese are culturally more willing to subjugate themselves to rulers than Americans are? Or is it just a matter of the amount of violence used and perpetuated by the state? Because I see what they're doing now here in the US, and there is a lot of pushback. There's people going to governors' houses, willing to trespass, willing to face jail time, willing to put themselves in harm's way to stand against what the governments are doing. There's people who don't even have kids in school who are going out of their way to fight against school boards and against school systems from indoctrinating the future and the youth. Like, was there any fight like that in China?
Well, traditionally, Chinese culture is based on Confucianism. And also remember China's 2,000 years of history ruled by men, ruled by emperors, one dynasty after another dynasty. So collectively, Chinese people, like also other Asian countries, they have tend to be a very collective thinking. Individual rights are a very new concept. When I heard it first time when I was in college from this American student, I was shocked. Individual right? Like, what is that? And it's all collective right. It's collective right. So, plus that when the communists take over, they then condition you to believe in them. And they offer you free stuff when they did the revolution to say, hey, peasants, if we take over, we're going to give you the land. And kind of make them to be jealous and have lots of envy against their landlord. When Mao took over in the 50s, right, he did a land reform. He killed 2 million landowners. But then peasants, for supporting him, did not get the land anyway. And then there's 40 million of them starving to death. They're the one who supported Mao. And they were starving to death because Mao's central planning policies to tell people how to grow food. And they all failed. He was competing with Russia. And of course, they all blame bad weather, natural disasters. I never knew how many people starved to death due to the mass famine. Then because, remember, he lost power because of that mass famine, and Liu Shaoqi became the president of China. Then Mao got very, very jealous, and he wanted to become supreme leader. Then he used Cultural Revolution to purge his political enemies, and he used the useful idiots, young, idealistic, easily to be manipulated young people who don't know history and who don't know much of anything to do his Cultural Revolution called get rid of 4 old culture, customs, habits, and ideas. 20 million people died during his 10 years Cultural Revolution. How do you push back? Those people got killed, dead. He divided people between oppressor versus oppressed, 5 red classes, 5 black classes. So they all fight each other tooth and nail. So during this recent work movement, you heard about this new words called struggle sessions. Yes, it happened under Mao. If you're black classes, you go to struggle sessions, apologize for being born rich, landlord families, your family has some private property, you apologize for their past, for their sins. And in order for you to move up in the red class, you have to change your last name. You have to change your last name to say, I belong to my family. I'm going to become a red child for Mao. Very sad.
Wow. So it's funny to me because the term struggle session, I'm very familiar with the term struggle session, but I've never actually heard it in that context, at least in the circles that I run in and people I argue with. Usually struggle session is used to mean a group of people arguing and fighting and over nothing of consequence and accomplishing nothing at the end of it.
I've got a question, Lily. It's like it seems like, between using the Cultural Revolution to manipulate people who kind of didn't know better into supporting something that was really ultimately very bad. And before that, you said Mao had a lot of support. Do you think there's any hope for like the majority of people? Is there ever you said you want to go national with your message. You want to spread it, and it's good. I think it's great. Like I saw you were on Tucker the other day. You've been on Tim Pool. This is all really good. do you think there's hope for the majority of people like actually believing this, or is this something where like they have to learn the hard way?
Well, my number one, always tell American citizens, do not ever compromise on our Second Amendment right. Say Chinese are totally disarmed. If today they're locked down 70 million people, you would think they have all that numbers. How come they just don't fight back, right? Hey, you know what? Because they have trained people, conditioning them to accept authority, and with their consent, to being enslaved with their consent, because the government control media and schools and press, narratives, social media, everything. Ministry of the Truth controlled every truth, right? Or what truth for you to believe in. So some people supporting lockdowns, even though they're dying of hunger or have mental health issues. It's very sad. So Americans are naturally supposed to be individualistic. But look what happened in the last 2 years. Maybe our state is not too bad, but remember other states, what happened? Neighbors against each other, and they family report on each other, and people screaming and fighting, and you got to conform, otherwise you cannot even go shopping. It's like I see those similarities. I just don't understand how Americans become this way so fast. I saw that conditioning is happening in the past 40 years. I've been here for 34 years. Now, today's America is the worst I have ever seen. That's why I have to do what I'm doing now, to go national with my messages like, what are we doing? Why are you destroying my new country? I came here for freedom.
Right.
I have to bite my tongue to post something on social media.
No, you talk about how crucial it is for Americans to not give up their Second Amendment rights and their rights to keep and bear arms and defend themselves, their families, and their freedom. I had pointed out during the Hong Kong riots, when that had first gotten started, imagine how different that would have turned out if the kids in Hong Kong had the average armament of a New Hampshire citizen. And then I learned out, I'm like, imagine how different things in America would be if the average American had the willingness to stand up for their rights of a Hong Kong citizen.
Look at what the kids in Hong Kong did with slingshots and umbrellas, man.
Right. They also hold a sign. We want Second Amendment, where our kids, some kids go out to say, we demand more gun control in this country.
Yeah.
Right.
People really are miseducated in this country, our students. That's why they take their freedom for granted. They take the right to protest for granted. Trying to go protest in Tiananmen Square today, in Hong Kong today, you immediately getting taken away. And I saw people were chanting, we want the communist revolution in Chicago, but they don't understand what that is. You will not be able to protest and even chant like that anymore, unless you are permitted to do such protest. Like when government in China organized protest, that's very easy. It's on propaganda everywhere. But if you really want to protest against your own government, boom, you gone. You disappeared. I would be disappeared today if I continue to stay in China, because I will not complain like my friends are doing now today. But it's too late for them. They are locked up and they're just feel the pain.
So I feel like there's some parallels there that people have just kind of let slip by throughout American history. Like you talk about like the Ministry of Truth in China controlling information. In your estimation, if you were to show an average Chinese citizen a picture of Tiananmen Square with the guy standing in front of the tanks, would they recognize it and know what it was?
Well, lots of people inside China don't know. My brother, his wife came out as legal immigrant 2015, and I showed them the Tiananmen Square massacre videos. They were just shocked. Say they don't know what is the truth because they never heard of the truth, but only when they left their own country, they come in here and they have access to the truth and to YouTube, because Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all were banned in China.
Right. And so I see that. So that's with the Chinese government suppressing that information. And then I look at something like the United States government isn't even suppressing the information, but your average person in America won't recognize footage or pictures from the Waco massacre, where the ATF and FBI massacred a bunch of women and children.
Well,
so
the school don't teach them, their parents don't teach them, and they just go with the flow, go with the school curriculum. School become babysitters, and then social media constantly manipulate our kids' mind. They're lefties, and they cancel people with dissident voices. And I got warnings and ban, taking posts down all the time by Facebook. So you have one lopsided, and then people cannot think outside their head. Should I go look for truth myself? Maybe this is not all there is.
And then there's a question of where do you look for it?
Look.
Yeah, even if you decide to go look for it, where do you go look for it? Like, how do you know what is verifiable? How do you know what to trust? How do you know what to believe? Because the only thing I know not to believe is whatever comes out of the government's Ministry of Truth.
So the thing is, our kids were taught to believe in government, believe in authorities, believe in politicians and unelected bureaucrats. Like, remember King Wauchi? Remember?
yeah, we were taught that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So CDC is also like, oh my goodness, those CDCs, they recommend us to wear a mask outside. People say I have immunity because I woke up from that 20-something years indoctrination. I never believed the government narratives anymore once I wake up. But
you
the
can
people
smell the bullshit.
Went through that process because they don't know. We cannot blame our fellow citizens. I think we have to be nice. That's why we want to keep our neighbors close. Even your friends who are Democrats, keep them close. Because if they do ask you a question, you can point them to the right source of information. You recommend them to go check something out. It's important that we keep our citizens close because we're not each other's enemies. It's the people who want to rule us over, want to be our masters. They are communists, they are Marxists, they're our enemies, or globalists, whatever you call it. But we need to keep our citizens close to us and be nice. That's what I'm trying to do. It's like, hey, I'm not very partisan. I just hate communism,
So Lily, if you win, you're now in Congress, you've done it, you're successful in your campaign. What are you personally going to be like top 3 things you hope to accomplish? Like, what are you looking to do in the state? Again, like I definitely think you're taking your message national with the exposure that you've gotten in the last 6 months. I mean, a ton of it, like Bill said, Tim Pool, Tucker Carlson just this week. Or last week. So what would you look to accomplish if you were to get in and magically win tomorrow?
I only be candidate for 4 months. Actually 4 months. Yeah, I'm the last one into the race. And I do have a top 6 campaign issues, and top 3 that is the inflation, parental rights, and the freedom of speech. And so I already promised, if I get into the Congress, I'm going to work with the others, defund and abolish the Ministry of Truth. Yeah. And of course, on inflation, and how come our politicians don't understand inflation is caused by printing money and out of control spending. And of course, if you flood the market with lots of printed money, then your existing $1 becomes like 80 cents. But they want to blame corporations. They want to blame Russia. But the government has been doing this for a while. The inflation is so high right now because, $5 to $6 trillion just got printed in the last 2 years. And people are feeling the pain at the gas pumps, and they're feeling the pain in the grocery stores. And you cannot just always rely on their politicians for solutions. The only thing that I promise to do is that, like Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, that kind of Republicans inside the Congress, they always say, if you pass this, how we're gonna pay for it? Like $40 billion to Ukraine, how are we gonna pay for it? And our oath is to defend U.S. Constitution. How are we going to send $40 billion to a foreign country where our people are suffering here, from the consequences of printing more money? That $40 billion is bigger than the entire DOJ budget. Think about that.
It's wild. It's crazy. And to take shots at the other side of the aisle, to both sides of the aisle politically here, and as my personal opinions, and one day on Twitter last week, we saw Joe Biden send out a tweet saying the cure to inflation was taxing the rich and corporations.
Oh
which
man,
just shows that
crazy.
we have the president of the United States has no clue what inflation is or what causes it. And at the same day, we had Dan Crenshaw, a Republican congressman, tweeting that it was important to send money to Ukraine to fund a proxy war against Russia to destroy Russian military and kill Russians. Like we had a sitting U.S. president of one party showing absolute and astounding economic ignorance of some of the worst economic conditions in the past 100 years, and a sitting member of Congress, a Republican, a veteran, a Purple Heart recipient who's seen the horrors of war, bragging about creating a new war and sending people to their deaths over politics. And it terrifies me because inflation and proxy wars are both going to come to a head, I think.
Also,
because
that
of
Justin, don't forget, if we let the American economy fall, you know what? The world will be a very dark place. We cannot help anybody. We cannot even help ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come to a head because the inflation of the U.S. is going to directly affect U.S. trade relations with China, our biggest import partner, and how that's going to hurt China's economy by not being able to trade with us if we're inflated into poverty. And at the same time, China has long-stated public aspirations of conducting a war to retake Taiwan from their supposed U.S. control. And so, like, how does funding a proxy war and spending us into poverty now play out? And looking like, as somebody who knows China better than any of us, what do you think China is seeing in the world stage right now, and how they're reacting to what U.S. politicians are doing?
I can only warn people, Xi Jinping, Chairman Xi, has a China dream. It's not people's dream. It's his China dream. His China dream is by 2049, China will take over the world, will be largest economy, not just the largest economy, but the largest military and the world dominant power. How is the United States deal with it? We'll focus on bring down our own economy. And we'll focus on like a social justice movement. Our kids are being indoctrinated and to go work. Oh, just like do we even understand what's going on in this world right now? And we're relying on China for lots of supply issues. And the China military is expanding. They also are doing Silk Road initiatives for a long time. They infiltrated into the free world by sending their Confucius Institute to train the Chinese teachers, come out to indoctrinate our kids to glorify China. And the last campus, Confucius Institute, closed last year, end of last year, was on UNH campus.
At UNH.
Yeah. You guys know how they're here for 15 something years? So lots of people don't know the truth. And I've been warning people. So it's like, what are we doing? We don't hold China accountable. We trust their COVID numbers, and we don't investigate the origin of COVID. But we're going to buy tons of PPE from them and home testing from them. It's crazy stuff.
Right.
And now they're threatening Taiwan. So are we sending clear message to them now to say, I feel sympathetic toward Ukraine people. I do. I also feel sympathetic toward Taiwanese people. But in order to prevent the war, you got to have the strength to negotiate, to send a strong message to prevent the war in advance. But our leaders are not doing that. Our leaders don't know how to print money to send all printed money to another country right now.
Patty makes a great comment on Facebook watching the show. It's Lily fled to the U.S. Where will people like her go if we fall? And where will we go? Like, unfortunately, the world has lost its bastion of freedom. And right now, New Hampshire is the last bastion here that we have. And I kind of want to close this up with you, Lily, on Dennis's question here. And I think this is the best question we've had the whole show for you. If you could, and I want to expand on this, if you could go back to China today with complete political immunity, complete freedom of speech to say whatever you wanted, no repercussions, what would you tell your ex-neighbors, friends, family, and people you care about in China about how much better New Hampshire is?
Well, not even just to go to China to tell them, because I cannot tell them online, right? But I'm telling the Chinese Americans who are more libertarian, conservative minded to move here now from other parts of the United States, like in New York and California, Washington. And I think that by right messenger, I can tell people, describe to them what kind of state we have here. I love New Hampshire personally. I think if the world, or United States falls, probably our state is the best place to be. And some people just always have other excuses, oh, it's too cold. I got a family here, there. They always have those excuses. It's like my Chinese friends in Shanghai. Shanghai is great. Why should I go to United States to start over? Don't even speak the language, blah, 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 blah. Look where they are now, today. They probably wish they were like me, to be free, to be at least a free bird out of the cage, like they are inside of a cage. I feel heartbroken for them. I hope they survive this, because I'm just afraid one will get sick and test positive, they're going to be taken away to the quarantine camps and will never come back, because quarantine camps even more worse condition than their home. And they're super healthy. They don't have symptoms, but you have no choice. The police come to your home, take you away, then they break into your home and nonstop to do disinfecting, like it's crazy, all by white guards, we'll call white guards now. And they take your cash and take your food away from your home. And it just, I wish I could convince 1 million people, just even like here in the US, to really look, into New Hampshire. Not just model, live free or die, to actually understand we are like-minded people here, and we will protect and help each other out. This is a truly liberty community, and we have some hope if everything else, goes down the drain. But I hope that day doesn't come, of course. That's why we got to exercise by speaking up. When you hold on to your Second Amendment, but it's going to be bloody when you have to use your guns. You got to use your words and speech, ideas and thoughts, mind now to win over this culture war and to prevent United States destruction by the, Marxist people. Let's do that first. Every year there's local elections. We need to get involved. Politics is local.
So Lily, it's we're all in the business of convincing people here of the ideas of individual rights, personal freedom. Do you think, it sounds like you've been working on this for a decade at this point, but do you think that the Free State Project is a more potent form than, say, like convince people to move to America or to join the LP? Where is that like a more potent form of getting people to be active and to actually like make a difference than, say, just coming here to, like, if you move to New York, I don't think you're going to get the same thing. What are your thoughts on that? Just like to round it out with a Free State Project.
Well, as as liberty-minded people, we respect each other's choices. Whatever cause you want to fight for, whatever party you want to belong to. Of course, in New Hampshire, you really can only register undeclared versus Republican and the Democrat. So we have to look at which party is more effective to get involved to advance liberty. My time is limited. I don't want my kids living in a socialist country. So I have to choose, to fight effectively, promote liberty, and to keep the country still, relatively, sane, and call out the CCP people here. So I have to do whatever I think is effective. I'm not about parties. I am about the cause, about liberty. That's my North Star, is how I'm going to advance my liberty, my messages, so my kids can have the same country I came here for, and to have their American dream. So I respect everybody's choices, but the most important, you just cannot keep your head down and be passive. Just say, hey, world's going hell. I'm going to enjoy my life by myself here, and keep my head in the sand. So remember the oath that we will come here advance liberty. Whatever your cause is, go for it. We respect each other's choices.
Awesome. Well, this is fun. I'm looking forward to seeing you continue to fight, Lily, because as always, you're at least entertaining and fun and so energetic, and you make everyone else around you so excited for what you're doing, and it looks great. It's awesome. Where can people follow you, learn more about your campaign, what you're doing, and what you're doing moving forward?
Well, that I am very active on social media. So my page is Lily for Congress. And I have a Twitter, Lily for Liberty. I've been doing that for a while. Then I'm on Instagram. And also I have a YouTube channel and have a website for my campaign where you can sign up to donate to as a volunteer, as a subscriber. I'm speaking at the Pork Fest, June 24th. And I think my topic is going to be a little bit scary or maybe sexy. Don't wait until it's too late. And I'm going to speak at the Freedom Fest. And I'm speaking all around to Republican local town committees. There are lots of liberty-minded people in New Hampshire. And the most important, we have largest voter bloc is independent. We need to get those people closer to us, persuade them to join the freedom movement so their children and their families will also still have American dream left. So let's get activated and let's do it together.
Are you going back on Timcast this week?
Yes, I'll be going back, and 2 hours I can get lots of details of the lockdowns and answer the questions. And I mean, every time when I go there, just like I'm staying here with you guys, like 2 hours and chatting goes very quick. Also, people ask me because I'm fun. You know, I'm not like a traditional politician. I'm not a politician. I'm just a pretty Chinese immigrant wants to keep her new country free.
That's it. Everybody check out Lily on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. Give her a follow. Check out her website if you're in New Hampshire. You want to learn more about what she's doing politically to help fight and protect liberty for us all in the long run. And if you're going to go to PorkFest, check her out. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, it's not technically too late, but you can't buy them from us. But in the secondary market, so you can hook up with the Free State Project Facebook groups and the Discord. Find somebody who was a good capitalist and bought extra tickets, because now you can buy them from them because we are sold out. But if you've already gotten your tickets, get ready to visit New Hampshire. Plan your visit. Come a week early, stay a week late. Tour the rest of the state. Meet your neighbors, meet your friends. While you're visiting, check out the calendar. There's an event almost every day, everywhere in the state, where you can meet other libertarians like Lily in your own neighborhood who are fighting to make the world more free. And first and most of all, tune back in next week, because we get a real special episode scheduled up for you, where we have the one and the only Free Stater extraordinaire Dennis Pratt coming back to the show next week to tell you all about how to get prepared and ready for your first Pork Fest if you've never been before. Because the Pork Fest is only about a month out, and we're getting ready to. It's going to be the biggest one ever. Again, this is like the third time in a row we've set the record, so it's time to keep going. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. Anybody have anything else?
Shout out Digital Cheese. Shout out Ploof on the Discord. Rusty Shackelford.
All right. And until next time, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to give it a follow. And until next time, be free.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Live free or die. Don't let the freedom pass you by. Stand up proud and strong and lead this country on. Live free or die. From the village green to the mountainside. Yankee voices sing the song of liberty.
In 1623, she touched the hand of history and led the colonies on. Independence was won, and the spirit lives today to guide America on her way. New Hampshire standing free, the home of liberty.
Live free or die, don't let the freedom pass you by.